So with that, I'd like to welcome everyone to our SoCal CCIM roundtable. This is our virtual roundtable. I believe in education, information, and relationships, and this is a way that our organization can provide our members, along with those in the industry, a way to continue to do exactly that in an environment where we need to go ahead and stay at home. And so what we wanted to do is make sure we provide a location for our members to come and do exactly to educate themselves, get prepared, get information, and at the same time be able to network so we can go ahead and continue with our business. And so with that, I'd like to introduce or talk about the mission statement for CCIM. Which is the mission statement is the mission of CCIM is to elevate our members to the highest success in the commercial real estate profession. And that's exactly what we're trying to do here with the virtual room. I want to encourage everyone to go to ccim.com, the resource page. On the resource page, you'll find more information regarding the SBA, IRS, Treasury Department, FEMA, legislative initiatives, advocacy initiatives, along with guidance for owners, operators, and property managers. And so if anyone has any questions related to real estate or some initiatives that are going on, that's a wonderful place to go to. My name is Gary Martinez. I'm the president for our SoCal CCIM president. We got about 150 members, and we cover all of Orange County and the Inland Empire. We have quite a bit of events throughout the year, and we want to make sure that we do the best of what we can to be the best resource for our members, along with everyone else in the commercial real estate community. And with that, we also have Helen Chong on the line. Helen?
Hi, everybody. So my name is Helen Chong, and I'm also the president for our Northern California CCIM chapter. And for our chapter, we have about 250 members, and we cover all the way from Sacramento to Oakland, San Francisco, and down to Silicon Valley. Typically in a year, we have 30 plus events, cover 3 different regions. But obviously right now we're even more excited because we can now do the virtual meeting and join forces with the Southern California chapter. So I'm really honored and really glad that Gary had invited us over to do this.
Wonderful. Thank you, Helen. In regards to our agenda today, we're going to go ahead and open up the meeting, which we're doing right now. We're going to do chapter introductions prepared by each of the presidents. Our goal of the meeting is to really be able to have an open discussion the best that we can through Zoom, and be able to share some opportunities and some ideas that we're experiencing, that we're going through, and share some tips that's going to help each of us for our own business. We have 3 special guests, Dr. Anil Puri, Dr. Morteza, Rahmatian, and Bob Osbrink, with Cal State Fullerton. And so we're very honored to have them in our call today. And so they're going to go ahead and talk to about 20 minutes as to their aspects and their thoughts on the commercial real estate market. Then we're going to open up discussions again in regards to share any tips, again, technology, best practices, Q&A. Then we'll go ahead and close up the meeting. And so with that, Helen, would you like to introduce your leadership team?
Sure. So our Northern California CCIM leadership team, we actually have about 18 board of directors, but I'm only including 5 of us here, which are Aziz Khatri. He's also on the call, and he was the past president for 2019. And again, my name is Helen Chong. I'm the this year 2020 president. And Tim Tran, he is our president-elect, as well as Tim Tukalski. He is, by trade, he is a CPA. So obviously, naturally, he is our treasurer as well as our secretary this year. And Teddy Swain is our technology officer. And these are our sponsors for our chapter. We truly, because we do so many events a year, we really needed a lot of sponsors to help us push forward some of the events. And we're very fortunate to have Sensiba San Filippo. They are actually a CPA firm, and they are our platinum sponsors. And also gold sponsors, we have Heritage Bank, Crexie, Vanguard, and also Chase. And of course, our silver sponsors, Business Finance, Capital, and also Chicago Deferred Exchange Company.
In regards to CCIM, I just want to recognize our board. We don't have our pretty faces up here on the screen like Helen had her group, but we do have some nice names here. and just want to give recognition to our board members, along with our sponsors, CoStar Group, AAR, Asheville Associates, Asset Preservation, Baker Law Group, Coast to Coast Escrow, Pinnacle Wealth Group, along with Fidelity. Just want to thank our sponsors. Without our sponsors, there's no way we could do the things that we do. So definitely want to thank them. If anyone needs some resources, needs some services, all our sponsors are open for business. And so please feel free to give them a call and support them just like they're supporting your chapter here. So in regards to our virtual roundtable, what we're doing is we've been doing this the past couple of weeks. This is our second roundtable, virtual roundtable, and we'll be hosting another one on April 7th. We will probably do one or continue to do them for the next following weeks. But at this point in time, we do have everything scheduled for today, along with next Tuesday from 8 to 9:30. And so, and again, we're looking for sponsors. And so the NorCal chapter, along with SoCal chapter, there's no way we could do the things that we do at the cost we do it at. And if you guys noticed that there was no fee for jumping on this call. And so we're doing the best job that we can to support our budget. And anyone that's willing to sponsor, looking to put your name up on the screens, we welcome that as well. We definitely could use the resources. So with that, we're going to go ahead and open up for discussions in regards to what's happening in the marketplace right now. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's been happening. We got the CARES Act that just came out last week. We have the SBA disaster relief loan along with another initiatives that either got passed or that are getting worked on. What are we seeing out there? Helen, what are you seeing out there in your area?
I think right now we're doing everyone is doing a lot of webinar, trying to learn. We start seeing more support from the government in terms of helping people who lost their jobs. So even the economists, maybe today we're going to learn more about it as well. It just seems like a lot of people have different prediction of the market. Some people are more positive and some people are more pessimistic. So I'm really eager to hear more about it today.
Wonderful. Now, Sergio, Lisa Kim, I know each of you were instrumental last week in regards to providing some new information. Are there any updates on your end?
I was having audio problems. Reaching out to Sergio.
Okay, audio problem. Okay, what about Sharon Carr? Sharon, you are our director for CCIM. Anything that you'd like to chime in and tell us what you're hearing across across the west coast of CCIM?
I can tell you we've had the clearest weather here in Los Angeles that I can remember in the last 30 years. That's the good news. I've been reaching out to clients and starting to cross-collateralize my contacts. So I reached out to someone who's a residential agent who happens to know someone who's in a 1031 I wouldn't have met before. So as far as what I'm doing, I'm focusing on people that have 1031s right now because they're still moving.
Yeah, I'm seeing the same thing. Absolutely, that's good information. And I see someone named CCIM Guest. You put your hand up. Would you like to chime in? You need to go ahead and unmute yourself.
There's a chance. I don't know why my name doesn't show up. This is Earl McCudry from Marketing. We're a commercial real estate mortgage brokerage, and so we're on the lending side. So same as Sergio is from Chase Bank. So I just wanted to mention that some of the banks and non-bank lenders are still open for business. Others have withdrawn from the market. And so we have seen some banks and non-bank lenders shut their doors for some for 2 weeks, some for an unpredicted amount of time. There's still quite a bit of money in the market. There are still banks and non-bank lenders who are lending. And so we're still funding purchases and refinances. Rates have come up anywhere from 1/8 to 1/4. And the conditions for lending, the quality of the deal has increased. So in other words, lending standards have tightened. And so we often find ourselves working on a file quite a bit before it ever gets seen by a bank or a non-bank lender in order to make sure that it's optimal. So, but the industry is still funding loans, and so that's a good thing. Also,
Wonderful.
the new CARES Act loans are flying off the shelf right now. There's a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of activity for those. We're processing those as well.
Gary. Can everyone hear me?
You're kind of broken up there, Sergio.
All right. Give me a second. Okay. Is this better?
No, it's still a little broken up.
All right,
All right, we'll come back to you, Sergio. How about Lisa Kim? I mean, you had a lot of wonderful information for us last week. Anything new going on in Garden Grove or new insights? What's going on in your world, Lisa Kim?
I think good morning, everyone. I think we're similar to everyone in this Zoom meeting. We're still gathering resources. We're trying to gather our understanding of the new CARES Act and how it can support our small business community. I'm in the process of putting together what we would call our Garden Grove resiliency plan. So essentially, it's going to be a clearinghouse of all information available at the federal, state, county, and local levels in terms of employee resources. I think there's a lot of great information out there. We're just trying to consolidate and put that under one document and resource. In addition, I've been tasked with really where do we go when we come out of this situation? What resources at the local level can we provide? I think when I last spoke, I'm in the process of retooling our SBA loan program that's funded through CDBG to shift it to a grant initiative whereby it's focused on employee retention and local Garden Grove residents to keep them employed. So we're hoping to deploy that sometime this week. It's probably in the neighborhood of a $5,000 grant that hopefully will at least provide some relief to some of our small businesses at a local level. It's not a lot, but we also anticipate an additional allocation of CDBG funding July 1, so we'll be able to extend that program and build a waiting list for that. We are reaching out to our counterparts, our peers that have an existing SBA loan program that's funded through CDBG to kind of glean from their expertise so we can do it right. We hear a lot of kind of information about just the bureaucratic process. We're trying to streamline to the best that we can. And so, you know, a lot of our small business community are under a high amount of stress. And so we don't want to include that in the processing of that application. We are going to batch them into two parts. One would be for businesses with 10 employees or less, and the other would be batched for businesses with 25 employees or less. So that's our target. And we're hoping to have our plan and all the resources to the best that we can available sometime this week. That's our timeline. Fingers crossed. Don't hold me to it if I'm a little delayed, but that's our goal.
Right.
I wanted
Thank
to
you,
mention
Lisa.
something, Gary. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, as of March 30th, I believe, sorry, March 28th, real estate actually has been deemed as an essential service by the federal government. But at the same time, I know there are a lot of us in the real estate industry are eager to go back to work. But just want to remind everybody that to make sure you check with your local government to make sure that it is still deemed essential service for your area. Even though federal government is saying it is, but it doesn't mean that all area is still considered as essential business. So talk to your county, talk to your city to make sure of that.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's good information. Wonderful. Thank you so much. And so with that, I'd like to introduce Bob Osbrink. He's the director for the Real Estate Center in Cal State Fullerton. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about what you're doing and introduce our two guests today?
Sure, Gary. Thank you. First of all, this is great that you're having this call. I think this is a great way to bring people together. And as Gary mentioned, I'm the director for the Center for Real Estate at Cal State Fullerton. and I'm going to be introducing two of my associates, colleagues that are both really good friends. So it makes a nice work environment when we can all pull together like that. And I'll introduce Morteza and Anil here in just a second. Yeah, the Center for Real Estate, we've been very happy to step in. I was on the board of directors for a few years at the school, and then we decided to shift our focus a little bit in the center, and I took on the director role. And one of the big things we're doing is creating partnerships with groups like CCIM, IREM, BOMA for our students. Our goal is to have the, hi Morteza, is to have our school set students into the business community, the real estate community, with as many tools as they possibly can. It's at the undergraduate level. In Orange County, we've got a couple other schools that have real estate programs, mostly headed towards master's degree, MBA focuses, UCI and Chapman. So we're separating ourselves. We started about a little over a year ago, putting this center together. Since then, we've got a real estate club that had 12 members, is now up to about 50 or 60. And as a member of that, they get to go to certain, every week, we've got events where panels come in and talk to the students. So they get a real-time, hands-on commitment from people as to what's going on in the business. That links to an intern program that we've built. And we've now placed, I believe it's 15 or 16 students into the real estate industry over the last few months. I've got a couple board members work directly with me on that. And we're making great progress. We've got about 40 in the queue, as you would say, to get into the business. So that intern program is going quite well. Part of what we're doing is also working with the DRE. We've got our students, so when they come out of our programs with our coursework, they're going to be able to forego the 2 years that's required to sit for a broker's exam. So they'll go right directly from school, graduate, and then go into be able to sit for the broker's exam, which for those of you who hire people, that's a tremendous step forward for an applicant. My background has been in commercial real estate my whole career. Had positions like CEO of Grubb & Ellis years ago, and been involved in consulting with a lot of the brokerage firms. So we're building it with the idea that the students that come off campus can go right into the industry with a head start on anybody else they're applying against. So far it's been working really, really well. We're looking for a certification in real estate as a minor in the finance group, and then eventually have a major in real estate. So those are some of the goals we're setting forward. We've got a number of board members. We have a few on this call, so thank you guys for joining. With that, let me introduce Morteza. Morteza Rahmatian is the dean of the business school. He's my boss, and he's been at the university since 1988 at Cal State, and he's walked his way through teaching, which he still loves to do. And I get a lot of great comments from students who are still involved. I know you're online these days, Morteza. He's got a master's degree and a PhD from the University of Wyoming, has an undergraduate at the University of Tehran. So with what's happening in the world, because I'm going to introduce Anil in a second, we've got a very international group from Cal State Fullerton. And the one thing I've noticed being around the campus is that the student body is an unbelievable mix of people, that students that come from everywhere around the world. And when you sit in these classes, it's mind-blowing to see what the perspectives are, because they're much different than a very provincial approach that I grew up with in Southern California. So that's exciting. Anil is going to come on the call here in a second, but Morteza, do you want to start off here for us? Just give us your views on the economy, where you see it going now, some of the, and from your perspective, because I can go with a ton of things. Anil has worked with the UN, or Morteza has worked with the UN and World Bank, been involved in a lot of international things. In fact, just came back shortly ago from a trip to Iran. So give us some perspectives on what you're seeing from your views.
I want to wait for Anil. I want to follow Anil. So I'd rather do it the other way around. See what Anil covers.
Well, we've got Anil, Dr. Anil Puri on the phone, and he's got his a PhD from University of Minnesota, undergraduate, masters, and bachelors from Punjab University in India. So we do have an international cast. Anil is now working with the Wood Center, doing fundraising for the university. He's been with Cal State Fullerton since 1977, which is about the time he and I met. So we go a long way back. His involvement has been at all levels. He was previously the dean of the business school, Mahalo, was very involved in getting the whole building built, and very well respected in the industry. He's on a number of the economist boards around the country. Also puts on the economic forecast each year, which we draw somewhere around 400 people to. And once we get that rescheduled, it was scheduled here in April, but now once it's rescheduled, anyone on the call, keep an eye out for that because it's a great event. So with that, Anil, we'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Bob. Okay.
A little choppy there, Neil. A little choppy.
Oh, let's see. Not sure what I can do about that. Let me get closer to it. How's that? Is it better?
Better. It's better.
Okay. Well, first of all, this is a very climactic time for all of us. And you know, I guess we're all sitting at home, or offices home mostly. There are people, essential workers, who are out there doing the job that needs to be done. My wife wonders how still I am. And I guess I'm not one of those essentials, like most of you. So what I thought I'll do, I heard comments earlier that people want to hear more about what's the economy, where we're headed. So I'll go through a few slides with you and then take questions. Let me just do that and go over some of the materials which you already have seen.
Hey, and Anil,
Yes.
Anil, the audio is still pretty choppy. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yeah. This is the graph for number of deaths. And if you look at carefully here, the yellow line is for the US, right in the middle. Very steep. And that's doubling of deaths every about 2 or 3 days. 3 days. While it has slid down for China, Spain is above us, France, Italy, they're above us as well. But the number of deaths continue to increase, as is the number of cases, new cases that are discovered. US again is a red line, you can see very clearly, and still going up. We are not at the top of the curve like we've been hoping, and it may be at least 2 weeks, maybe more, before we will get there. I'll talk more about the spread of the disease in a minute. These are the numbers I'm sure you've seen before from other sources, but given all the measures that we're taking, distance, social distancing and others, we're hoping that this number will start to slow down and then eventually come down. In the meantime, because of the social distancing, staying at home, and other measures that were taken, the economy is being hit badly. And there are so many different measures. We all sitting at home is an example of that. But one remarkable number is the TSA traffic, which has ground down to almost zero or very minimal. Some people still have to travel. But compared to 2019, it has been a disaster as far as the airlines and air traffic is concerned. Same is true for restaurants, if not worse. That percentage change from a year ago is almost 100%. Reservations are down to zero because the restaurants are closed. And we heard last week that jobless claims have started to climb up, which is to be expected when all the businesses are closing. 3.3 million unprecedented increase, and the next week will be even higher. And these jobless claims are going to continue to increase for several weeks yet. We're going to talk about government measures that have been taken to provide unemployment insurance that may mitigate some of this effect, but it's going to be a substantial hit to the job market. One of the things, measure that we all are very worried about and look at all the time is the stock market. And stock market has gone down 34% so far from the peak. It has come back some in the last few days. I didn't check this morning. I think it's still down again. But here's a chart that gives you some perspective on previous declines, large declines in the stock market. So we are very similar to, or very close to the August 87 decline. But for other major declines in November of 68, when we went off the gold standard, January 73, Arab oil embargo, March 2000, tech burst, and then October 7, which was the Great Recession. All of these were farther decline, greater decline than what we're witnessing right now. The decline is global. S&P is 24%, 34% down, but so is Europe and emerging markets indices as well. We have seen three different measures taken by the federal government to take control of the situation, provide relief. This is a time when we become aware of the need for the role of government, especially national governments and global governments. Because when we're hit by a shock like this, it's like an asteroid hitting. It's only by working at the federal level, the global level, that we can mitigate or control these situations. So in the U.S., Federal Reserve Bank as well as federal government have taken many of the measures. I'm sure you've heard about the Federal Reserve Bank pumping money into it and supporting just about any credit instrument other than the junk bonds. Private, even the corporate bonds, they're planning to support, of course, the treasuries. And as of this morning, or even yesterday, Federal Reserve Bank has also opened a window for the central banks of the world to provide liquidity to the rest of the world, because our well-being relies on what happens in other countries as well. CARES Act, this is a graph that you're looking at, you've seen, I'm sure, before, is $2.3 trillion, the biggest ever support budget for bailout. People don't like to call it bailout, but call what you will. Provides huge amounts of guarantees, loan guarantees, direct payments to individuals. And it is going to have a timely impact, not immediately, but in short term. It will all depend on how the money is distributed, how quickly it is distributed. But it's a very positive step. And there may be more, depending on the path that this coronavirus takes. Thought I'll look at Orange County a little bit as well as the nation in terms of what it could do to employment and rate of unemployment. Here's a chart that shows you what happened in the Great Recession. In January 08, the U.S. unemployment rate was 5%. It jumped to 9.8%, doubled. And number of people unemployed increased from 7.5 million to, again, doubling $15 million in the U.S., 15 million people, rather, in the U.S. In Orange County, the rate jumped from 4.4% in January 08 to 10.1, more than doubling by January 2010, and the number of unemployed also doubled. It took 5 years from January 2010 to January 15 for the rate to drop down to the 5% level in the nation, 5.7, and in Orange County also to 5%. And it was only another 5 years. It took another 5 years, January 20, most recently, that the rate is in the 3% range for both for the nation and the U.S. Now, you can try to figure out whether this current recession is going to be as bad. It's certainly, hopefully, not going to be as long, because the recession was 2 years. This will be a sharp decline and hopefully a sharp recovery, so that's not clear that will happen. But I expect that we might hit twice the rate, at least in the immediate future, which means the next month or two, in terms of unemployment numbers. But the recovery will be, I expect it to be much better. We're going to have the full forecast, as Bob pointed out, in middle of April, and we'll share the results, more detailed results of that. In terms of GDP, I'm sharing with you some of the forecasts that we've seen to give you an idea of what kind of hit we are going to have. JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs both believe that this quarter, GDP will decline to 10%. It's primarily because of March events. But this next quarter is where the big losses are going to be, somewhere between 25 to 36%. For the year as a whole, 2020, Goldman projects a 6.2% decline in GDP. So definitely, so we are in a recession right now. This quarter will be negative as well as the next quarter, and perhaps the third quarter as well. But in the fourth quarter, we expect positive growth. As I said, we will provide you with our forecast in a couple of weeks. But it's a pretty substantial hit to the state of the economy. Well, where are we? It seems like there are some media reports, that things are getting better, that rate of infection may be slowing down the rate, but not the level. The number of deaths may be declining because of distance, social distancing, stay at home, and other measures that we've taken. And because of the measures that Federal Reserve Bank and federal government has taken, the economic situation may not be as bad. And if the virus is mitigated to some degree, that we have hopes for recovery in the third and the fourth quarter. So whether it's an incoming train or a tunnel, partly it also depends on where you are. But we think it is end of the tunnel, and we see a faint change of color from dark to a gray or turning gray. But we are still some time away from that. There are three reasons for hoping that it's not a train coming towards us, rather a tunnel, end of the tunnel. First is the medical research. Tremendous medical research is going into it. U.S. is a pioneer. Our pharmaceutical companies are doing a wonderful job in our labs. So we hope that they will have therapies to mitigate the effect and hopefully a vaccine by early next year. We're all staying at home, taking other measures, and that seems to be having impact, and we will see the results in the numbers in a few weeks. And finally, the monetary and fiscal policy flexibility, I think, provides us hope for that the economic situation may not be as dire as it would have been if we hadn't taken any measures, precautionary measures, both in the health area as well as the economy. So when do we return to normal behavior, normal situation? That is a big question. There are three possible timelines. The first is that some people are hoping in 1 to 2 months, by middle of May or thereabout, that we will be there. That is a highly unlikely scenario, even where we are. Virus is continuing to progress. We don't have our tests are being developed, but even the latest test that the Abbott lab developed, which is going to be giving results in 15 minutes, the issue is how quickly we can get it into the hands of people, doctors, and healthcare workers for that to be implemented. There does not seem to be any way to do that. So 1 to 2 months is a very unrealistic expectation that we'll get back to going out to dinners and going to work and other normal things. In the 3 to 4 month scenario, what we envision is that therapies will be developed to mitigate the effect of the infection. Temperatures can be controlled, and so many people don't have to go to the hospital, many of them. And there will be tests more widely available, because testing is very important so we know where we are and what changes are taking place. So 3 to 4 months is a scenario where some of the tight restrictions that we have right now may be removed, but it will be still a very slow return to normalcy. 4 to 12 month scenario is where we need some help from nature. Maybe the virus doesn't like the summer weather, and that will slow down its spread. But also our measures that we're taking are going to have effect, and more therapies will be developed, and that will make the situation more manageable. Virus is not going to disappear by itself. We're going to have a vaccine. Now, that is the last scenario, 12 to 18 months. Even under the best scenarios, vaccine is not likely to become available for use by average person until spring next year. Vaccines take a lot of time to develop and test. We want to make sure that doesn't cause more harm than good. And so the earliest is next spring. And by then, a lot of people would have developed immunity against it. And so that is definitely a realistic scenario for the next 12 to 18 months, that we would have seen the worst of it, and we know how to control it and how to manage it, and we start to have a more normal life. Now, those of you who are into stock market, and especially the quantitative analysis, may want to look at this graph. This is when do the stocks bottom out? Have we hit the bottom of the stock market yet or not? Looking at past data, stock market bottoms out 1.6 months before the peak in jobless claims. Now, I just said we haven't seen the peak in jobless claims, and it may be a few weeks away or longer. So that's one number to keep in mind. And also, the job market bottoms out 4 to 4.5 months before the end of the recession. Now, I just said that we are in a recession, and the second quarter is also in a recession. So if the stock market, you believe it has peaked out now, then it's expecting the end of the recession in 4 months, or thereabout, 4.5 months. But nobody knows the stock market, and we don't know if it has hit the very bottom or not, but it'll test the bottom again. But as I said, I'm not a stock analyst. I throw the number out to you for you to ponder. So with that, I will stop my presentation and be happy to take any questions. Can you hear me? Hello?
Go ahead, Gary.
I cannot hear you.
Yeah, Gary, we cannot hear
Anil's
you.
still muted. And Anil may have to unmute on his.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Sorry, that was my fault. I muted my phone.
Okay. Is that better?
All right. All right. I was just saying that, Morteza, I know you have some insight that you'd like to share.
Yes.
And maybe just go ahead and chime in. And I was going to say, if anyone has any questions on your side, go ahead and just raise your hand and we'll get to you. Okay. Morteza?
Yes, I'd like to add a few more data and information. Of course, thank you, Anil, for such comprehensive presentation. We appreciate your help. Just this morning, Macy's, Kohl, and Gap announced that they're going to have a layoff. And just in case you want to know numbers, each employ about 120 to 129,000 people. and they're going to lay off about 80% of their workforce. And then, of course, as Anil mentioned, hotels, airline, restaurants, and retail are in quite a devastation as expected. Clearly, their cash flow is very low among all these industries. They have anywhere between 1 to 5 months of cash flow left to support and survive. So without a doubt, they need money. And as Anil mentioned, the monetary policy and the fiscal policy both are helping quite a bit. The $2.2 trillion is a huge fiscal policy stimulus, largest ever that I've ever seen. And last week, Federal Reserve purchased about $500 billion worth of bonds to put more cash into businesses' hands. So with all these efforts combined, the companies are basically surviving to stay afloat till we have better news on this event. Last week when we had $3.3 million unemployed filing, I want to put that into perspective for you. Into the Great Recession that we had, the highest we had was $750,000 unemployment filing in 1 month. And this happened, 3.3 million happened in 1 week. So that will give you some kind of perspective in terms of what we're dealing with. And so I just thought to shed some numbers. So what do we need to do? Clearly, we need to prevent consumers from being laid off. And if they are, we have to provide unemployment insurance for them, and extended unemployment insurance. And clearly, we need to protect firms from default and laying off individuals. And as Anil mentioned, the fiscal and monetary policy will assist us, but the road is very choppy. The road is very, very choppy. So as I said, Anil did such a great presentation. I really can add much to that. So Anil and I are ready for some questions.
Okay, if anyone has any questions, go ahead and raise your hand. What I'll do, I'll go ahead and unmute you. Any questions, go ahead and raise your hand and I'll unmute you.
Hey, Garrett, this is Bob. I'd like to make just a statement here that a couple of things to note. Take a look at some of the things that are coming across LinkedIn, for example. Tom Barrick of Colony Capital is becoming very outspoken in a somewhat positive way. Last week, he was calling for the demise of the complete commercial real estate industry. If something didn't happen, well, something happened. I know Tom, and Colony Capital has a lot of money out. And what I'm noticing, and if you follow a lot of the reports that are coming out, the public-private partnership, as far as really paying attention to what's going on, is starting to catch. It's a little behind what the feds have done. On the other hand, like locally in our market here, the Irvine Company, one of the deepest pockets that we've got in Southern California, they're relieving rent payments for people in the apartments that they own. They're also relieving tenant rents. It's not going away, but they're putting forbearances in place where if you choose to as a tenant, you can forego the next 4 to 6 months of rent, and they'll tack it on the back end. They'll extend your lease on the other end of it, assuming that the economy will get healthy again. So I would, with all the numbers we're talking about, one of the things I'd encourage everybody on the call is to keep watching the way the public sector is working in relationship to private enterprise and the private, especially the larger corporate private landholders, developers, owners of properties. So I just wanted to put that on the table because that is a shift that I don't think we saw before, where everybody's kind of moving in the same direction and starting to catch up together. So that's just a thought.
Got it. Thank you. And we had a question from Earl. Earl?
It seems to me that we should all be open-minded to the permanent changes that are likely to occur in business and markets and in our industry as a result of this. So when this is all over, the world's going to be different in some key ways. The way people work, the electronics here are making work from home really feasible now. So probably big changes in office occupancy. a lot of changes, and I think we need to be really, really open to that and prepared to do business in a different way as this whole thing develops and when it concludes. So I just want to put that out there. I think that we should all be prepared and ready to have change in the way that we work, in the way that we serve our clients, and in the way that we earn our living. So that's what I've got.
Yeah, this is Anil. I agree with that. And I think that we already are seeing a change of labor force allocation. There are going to be a lot of bankruptcies. But not only that, the way we are doing the work now, everything is online, right? From education to work. And that is going to have significant implications for the commercial real estate market, for office in particular, and retail as well. So I think just because this is not a short-term phenomenon in terms of behavior change, a lot of it is going to linger and maybe become permanent. We'll know more about it, but I think this is an important point. I fully agree with that possibility of significant and permanent changes.
I agree with that.
Absolutely.
I agree with that assessment too. There's clearly be a long-term behavior change because of this, and more workforce may end up working from home. And as university, we're virtual right now. We're online, although online views are mixed. But clearly, after that, we should expect some changes in our delivery at the university as well too. So clearly, I agree with Anil and the question.
I have a
Wonderful.
comment regarding what Bob had said earlier regarding a lot of tenants, no matter if it's in apartment building or retail, they are getting the forbearance on rent payment. And as you said, it could be from three months to 6 months, and or even longer. Now, in terms of from the landlord perspective, I know that Governor Newsom had talked about like working with a lot of banks to allow the deferment of the mortgage payment as well. But we also have started hearing a lot of banks, the way they work is that they defer 3 months payment. By end of 4th month, they expect you to pay all 3 months of payment, which obviously is not going to make sense. A lot of people won't be able to afford that. With that said, then a lot of landlords gonna end up going into foreclosures. I mean, I don't know if anybody has any comments about that or know more detail about that.
Well, I think my thought on that is that the notion that any of these forbearance, first of all, the people that can do that are like the Irvine Company, where there's readily cash available. They're in a very liquid position. Problem's going to come when even though the thought is in the right place, the liquidity of the developer or the property owner can't handle that sort of a transaction. So that I don't believe it'll be a lump sum payment at all. I think something will have to change in that. Remember, this is, as Anil mentioned, I think we can all agree this is about as dynamic a time as we've ever seen. So things are going to continue to change. I would suspect that some companies would figure out the way on their balance sheet to maybe let some rents lapse or not lapse, but push them out for, let's say 3 months, let's say 6 months. And then the repayment schedule would fit into where their liquidity is right now, because that's the big issue on the other side of the table with some of the right thoughts in mind. But Irvine Company is an example because it works for them. They've got the pocketbook to be able to do it.
Yeah,
that's right. And
sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I heard this morning the next bill that the House is looking at will definitely include some sort of, basically they're going to look at the mortgage payments, whether they're going to give it to the landlords or they're going to have the banks, force the banks to do something about it. But that's the next step that they're going to be looking at. Hopefully that'll help. I'm sure it's not going to solve all the problems, but it might help a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
From my perspective, and actually I'm a CPA, so I'm probably the only CPA that's on this call, I'm assuming. But my advice to my clients has been get those applications in for the small business loans, interruption loans. even if you don't think you qualify, you should go ahead and do it. That is going to be basically free money. It can be used to pay rents in addition to salaries. What I can figure out, if a landowner owns the property that they're leasing to their business, that would qualify as well. So I think it's the new gold rush as far as getting SBA loans. I wonder if anybody else has any comments on that.
Yes, thank you, Tim. You're a little choppy there, but I think what you were mentioning is that you're recommending to all your clients that they just sign up for the loans and get as much money as they can, because we don't know what type of forgiveness that's going to be out there in the next packages that the government will be allowing our small businesses. And so I think that's really good advice, and that's I know advice that I'm giving at least all of my clients that I'm talking to. And so, Marty, you have a question. Go ahead, Marty.
I have a question. I have a few comments. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Marty?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. So I just had a few comments based on the feedback I've had with a lot of my brokers up here in North Carolina. Excuse myself a little bit. We've noticed that we're kind of on hold on the lend side, just to get through. Let's see how many of the tenants, both in retail and in the apartment sector, are going to be paying their bill. So we kind of hold off right now. We're in that wait-and-see pattern because nobody knows how many tenants are going to be able to pay or not. The other things that we've been noticing up here is obviously grocery stores and medical related, they're going to do financially right now. Those loans are much easier to get through. The other side that we're seeing is, if you think about it, if grocery stores are doing well, and it appears, at least for the short term, that the Kohl's, Gap, Macy's, Nordstrom's, and even Marcus, those kind of companies struggle greatly because they're laying off so many workers. They may not come back. So I suspect those big boxes are going to be available as cheap leases, or and perhaps if they don't, they're not going to stay. And I suspect you're going to see.
Marty. Hey, you're. I think we heard a portion of that, a small portion, but it's very choppy on your end. Okay. I think we need to figure out how to get this audio better for future calls. But Marty, it was very choppy.
Well, to mention is because Zoom right now, they were just on the news how Zoom is very overwhelmed, and actually not just Zoom, just the Wi-Fi internet in general. So unfortunately, yeah, this is the issue we're probably going to come up with.
Yeah,
that makes sense, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe for future references, just thinking out loud here, maybe we got to jump on the call and maybe just share our screens, just like Anil was doing. And so, Earl, you had some. Go ahead.
Time for G5, I said. It's the case.
G5. That's all right. Earl, go ahead. Earl? Okay. Or what about the CARES Act? I mean, that's
if you
there.
Unmute,
Okay.
We spoke about the urban company making arrangements with their residential tenants on rents and so on. And so that's really a terrific thing, but those are institutional owners. You have to remember a tremendous number of investment properties, that's residential as well as commercial investment properties, are owned by families and individuals. And so they don't have the deep pockets the airline company and the other ones do. And, so whenever a lender does a loan to these people, they always want to see that the borrower has a store of cash available for things like this. But an awful lot of the people don't have it. So hopefully the four Congress is working on now will contain a provision for banks and investment property owners for liquidity for them as they have for other types of businesses. So that's what I got.
Right.
I think that's right, and I think you'll see. Mike, I think that's a great point, because the majority of the properties, percentage-wise, in the country are owned by private capital, and but I do think you within 6 months, maybe sooner. I've heard some people putting together some programs that could backstop that. Obviously, it won't be cheap money, but not quite hard money in loans. But there'll be some. That's where the private connection with the public sector is going to happen, and I think you can call it private or you can call it institutional money, but somewhere those two are going to start coming in. I've seen a few proposals already as to how that issue, which is an issue, could possibly be backstopped, and the logarithms are being developed right now by some pretty sophisticated investors. So just keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, I know one thing that we talked about, we didn't talk a whole lot about, is this, we touched on it a little bit, which is that the Paycheck Protection Plan that the government has right now, that is in place to help businesses with their payroll, with their mortgage, with paying rent. I've been talking to a lot of bankers yesterday, and a lot of them I couldn't get on the phone because they're all busy helping their clients, try to sign up for the Business Protection Plan. From what I understand, is that the SBA hasn't given clear guidance to the banks. Valerie, I saw you were on the phone. You're with Wells Fargo. Would you like to chime in, or are you still there, Valerie? I don't see you on here anymore, but yeah, but just to continue, Earl, go ahead, Earl. You're on mute.
Yeah. So what we're processing these payment protection plan loans, and so what we're getting is that the banks expect by about this Friday to have more wisdom from SBA about these different questions and loose ends right now. So you have to realize that people at SBA have been burning the midnight oil, putting this whole program together, ready to work. There's been a tremendous amount of really fast work done. And so we can, there will be some confusion and some things to smoothly. But they think that this Friday or so is when the appeals will begin and things will start heading for funding. So that's what we're being told so far.
Right. And I think that's one thing for everyone to be mindful of, and just to be on the lookout for, as Bob was mentioning and Helen was talking about, which is just keep looking at the initiatives, follow the news, follow resources such as CCIM, Cal State Fullerton, and all the different resources that are out there to support the small businesses in our areas. Because the more information we have, naturally, the better off we're going to be for ourselves and for our clients. And so, does anyone have any comments or questions for our Cal State Fullerton folks, or have any additional thoughts that they would like to share here? So,
I want to thank Anil and Morteza for getting on the call, and that's great information. I know that I wanted the call to go till 9:30. I know they both had some other commitments, so thank you guys for on.
Thank you so much. I know a short notice for both of you, and I know each of you were scrambling a little bit to make this happen, and which I think is a sign of our times for all of us, that are scrambling trying to make things happen for everything that's happening. It just seems like every day is a new world and new information that's coming out, and so we're trying to be the best resource we definitely can. So I definitely appreciate both of you, along with Bob, of helping putting this all together. And so,
thank you. Our pleasure.
And so, with that, I just wanted to, Morteza, go ahead.
Have a good meeting, and thank you for inviting us.
Thank you so much. And so with that, I just wanted to remind everyone, you know, your local CCIM chapters are here to support you. We're here to try to be a resource the best that we can. We have a lot of different ideas that we're trying to get out there to the marketplace as quickly as possible. And we understand, especially those that are 100% commission, how important it is to keep your business going. And so we're going to do what we can to continue to support you and your business. Keep on the lookout for emails that are coming from your chapter and from us locally, because again, we're going to be providing some additional resources that are going to help you. And so with that, we'll go ahead and close out the meeting. And I just wanted to have this little quote that I saw the other day, which was very helpful for me, which is, everything will happen for you all of a sudden, and you will be thankful you didn't give up. Blessings are coming. Believe that, by Jay Shetty. And so with that, I'd just like to thank everyone for participating in today's virtual call. Again, we're looking for sponsors. We're looking for resources. We are trying to do the best job we can to support everyone in our industry. And we're excited for the opportunity to put this on for you. And so if anyone has any questions, please reach out to Helen, reach out to myself, you know, reach out to your leadership, and we're all here to support each other. I believe in unity, and the more we're going to get through this together. And so, again, thank you so much for everyone from Cal State Fullerton. Helen Chong, thank you for jumping on the call. Thank you for everyone supporting and sharing your ideas. We will be doing this again next Tuesday. We'll figure out some stuff to how to fix this audio as well. So look out for that. But with that, thank you so much. Everyone have a blessed day, and we will see you guys next week.